Diverse city. Welcome. You are here. We do a lot of light in LA, don't we? That's just gross. No. But still, Mount Wilson is working. Because it's a daytime. You know, Mount Wilson is a solar space exploration place. Did you know that? Did you? Okay. All right, I'm done. That's it. That's where we live, diverse city, and you are here. It's actually quite interesting to think about diversity. Yeah, it's a play on words, right? You get it. But it's to think about because, you know, we have defined it as to be about race and ethnicity and stuff like that, but it's really about the multiplicity of the Spirit expressing itself, this unified experience. I mean, you know, we look around our own center here and we have all kinds of ways. We can all do it. We do it on a regular basis. We look for diversity. We're looking for differences. We're looking for our tribe, you know. But when we think about it, we've got, in this room, well, we got ex-Catholics, we have recovering Jews, we have tall people, short people, heavy people, rich people, not so rich people, immigrants, old and new, you know, blondes, brunettes, wannabe blondes, wannabe brunettes, short hair, long hair, can't make up your mind, so you get it cut all the time, you know, former dreadlock people. I mean, we have all kinds of stuff going on here, all different ways that we're looking at life expressing in its very diverse ways. But for some reason, we've shut it down in our culture to be this thing where we have to go get trained in how to see it, you know, and how to experience it. And while there is a lot of value to that, we can see that in our culture in the United States today, we have to really understand that that we are all stamped, we are stamped by the divine with individuality. We are the experience of God having its consciousness. We are the activity of God being expressed in an individualized nature. That's pure science of mind. That's how we talk about it in our way of looking at things. But it's so easy for us to use that individuality and begin to look for the similarities and then to cocoon ourselves or just silo ourselves in our own areas of similarities and to forget about the rich tapestry of life that's around us. So this is a talk really about understanding and really experiencing that tapestry, that rich tapestry of life that is so around us all the time. The separation that we experience in life, the separation we experience in our culture today is actually a learned activity. I've been reading this wonderful book that's been being read to me. I love Audible. Oh my God. I like to read, but it's also nice to be read too. And this is Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States. Any of you familiar with it? Mary, order 1 or 2 for the bookstore. They're thick, they're big, but you can also get it on Audible. It's really great. But what he talks about is a different way of telling the history of the United States and the way of the people here. And what was really striking to me is how, you know, the whole story is of control in the U.S. in the very beginning, when they were still part of the colonies, was about land ownership, right? And those that owned the land ran things. And those that did not were in another space altogether. Now, there were less people owning stuff than there were that didn't. Makes sense, right? But here's the thing. The people that didn't own stuff, like the displaced indigenous peoples, slaves and free slaves, servants that came over from Europe, poor white folks that didn't own anything, those folks really related to one another because they were in a similar bag. They didn't own property. They didn't have rights. They didn't get to vote. Now, here's what's really interesting. The people that owned the power began to legislate ideas and laws and rules that led to separation. They legislated that people couldn't marry, where there was intermarrying. People just naturally intermarried within the Indian tribes. White servants began to intermarry with Indians. Freed blacks began to intermarry with Indians. And the landowners were like, wait a minute, we can't have all these people getting together because it's more of them and it's not enough of us. And suddenly we had these laws that have been propagated upon us over and over and over again until we are really entrenched in these separate ways, these silos of being in our country. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's not naturally that way. Our natural state is to cooperate with one another. Who here would not, regardless of who it is, somebody falls down, what do? You go to help them up. That's just the way we are, you know? But we learn that that's not what we're supposed to do. And that has been codified. It has been written into code in our country, and we've bought into it. But there was a guy who lived long before this country became a country that had this wonderful idea. He called it a commandment. I think he was like a little Jewish boy. His name was Jesus. And he said, love as I have loved you. Love others as I have loved you. That's the one commandment that he went to share with everyone. And Ernest Holmes loves that idea, but he reminds us that we sometimes forget. He says, the mind of man does not yet comprehend its own power or scope, but it does know how. It does know how to consciously cooperate with the infinite. And that message from Jesus, that is the way how. It is to love as we have been loved by the supreme consciousness that brought us here in the first place. I mean, think of how unselfish it was to say, I'm going to create a whole bunch of different people out of myself and give them free will and volition to go about and do as they please, regardless of what that pleasing might be. That's Spirit's love for each and every one of us. And because we all come connected to that, because we are interconnected to that sense of love, it is our duty, our responsibility, our opportunity to express that love for our fellow human being, for our fellow creatures, for our earth, for everything that exists. For everything that exists, as Johanna so wonderfully says in her prayer, is a form of love. It's a form of God expressing. We're all from the one mind, united. But the thing about united, as I mentioned about earlier, unity does not mean conformity, and unity does not mean individuality from the sense of being separate. It just means multiplicity. It just means a lot of the same thing expressed in a lot of different ways. This is Universal's perspective on things, is that it's all one, but it needs to be separated out into differences. Individual only at our conscious perception. Well, that's an interesting idea. We're only individual at our conscious perception. We have the ability to think that something is separate from us. Our perception allows us to see something as separate from us. But our opportunity is to see how we are actually interconnected to everything. I'm thinking about the Ogallala Aquifer. Anybody know the Ogallala Aquifer? It's the largest aquifer in North America. It stretches from North Dakota to North Texas. All the water from the Central Plains states comes out of that aquifer. That means people in North Dakota and Bismarck are drinking from the same water fountain as people in Dallas. That's really amazing. That's a huge amount of water. That's a lot of people connected all together. My favorite thought of interconnectedness is the aspirin. The aspirin. I did not get enough sleep last night. Take two, call you in the morning. No. The aspen. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The aspirin, come on, you know. They're all in the same bottle together. They're all in the same ground together. But the difference is when you pour your aspirin out, they separate in your hand. But if you lifted the aspirin tree out of the ground, you'd see that all the roots are connected and that they're actually all the same organism. They're the same tree. They just look like different trees because they popped up out of the ground in different places. They're actually just live roots sticking up from the same organism. Talk about interconnectedness. That's like the aquifer of ground trees, sort of. Something like that. Kinda, maybe. But you get what I'm saying. Maybe. Do you? Are you with me here? Because I am gone. I don't know. I take a couple more aspirin. Yeah, right. Does it come from a plant? Most medicines do. That's the problem with somebody asked for a tangent, here we go. But that's the problem with what we're doing to the planet today with the rainforests going away. Most of our medicines do come from plants, and we're killing more plants faster than we can discover the medicinal purposes for those plants. That's scary. You know, we need to slow down, including me. Let's see what Ernest has to say. Ta-da! Each individual is a unique variation in the universe. No two people are alike, and yet all people are rooted into that which is identical. What are we rooted in that is identical? Source, God, Spirit, the universe. That's where we're all coming from, together in this thing, you see? And because of that, we have this sort of interdependence about us. We remember the learned separation. See, when a slave said, "Hey, enough of this, I'm getting out of here," and he ran off into the woods, and he's in western Georgia, or even further, western Mississippi or Alabama, which was totally in the woods back in those days. He's like, "What do I do?" Well, the Indians said, "Hey, hang out with us. We'll feed you." That's interconnectedness and interdependence. They depended upon one another, you see. We had to learn to be separated. It's our natural state to know this. This thing about diversity, though, it's a nice idea, and it's catching on. There was a business that decided that they would practice a little diversity. So they decided to hire some cannibals. And things were going pretty good. The HR guy met with all the cannibals, and he said, I want to tell you about your human resources package. You've got insurance. You have all the things that you need. Everyone help. You even have parking spaces downstairs, okay? Everything is cool. And you can eat in the cafeteria, anything you want except the employees. Things are going along pretty well. About 2 months in, they decided to have a meeting with the cannibal department to express how things were going. The HR guy says, things are really going good around here. In fact, we're finding that productivity has increased since you guys have been around. We're really happy with your performance. The whole factory is doing a lot better. Although we do have one problem. A secretary is missing. Did you guys eat the secretary? No, not us, no. Okay, thanks. So they leave. When the HR guy is gone, the head of the cannibal says, "Okay, come on. One of you guys eat the secretary?" And this guy in the back goes, he says, "Dude, we've been here 2 months. As long as we've been eating managers, nobody noticed." You eat a secretary, somebody that's working, now we're in trouble. But the deal is, they opened up to express themselves in a different way and to see everybody as the same and say, "Hey, let's give this guy an opportunity." So when you're walking down the street somewhere and you see somebody and your instant thought is, maybe you should ask a question. Is this an opportunity to give somebody a different frame of reference, to open myself up to a different way of being? What is it about this particular person that's irritating me? Maybe it's something within me that's going on, that's being irritated by this person in my own consciousness. Perhaps I have an opportunity here to change my perception around it. I mean, all of you guys probably have a whole different perception of cannibals now, as long as you're not managers. When I'm thinking about this interdependence and how it works, sometimes I just have to go to something that's not as, it doesn't have as much volition as human beings, because we sometimes use our choices to make decisions that we would rather have not made at the time we made them. But we do have a second chance, so that's really great. But think about the candle and the flame. It doesn't separate from the flame. It's there, and its glow is already available for everyone. It's available to one who wants to read from it. It's available to one who wants to meditate with it. Or yesterday, we were so blessed to have had a chance to hang out with some of our congregant friends on a boat, and we're out on the ocean. And I was thinking about the ocean there as we were floating along, and how it just doesn't care who it's carrying. There was the big old oil tanker out there. There's the really sweet sailboat that we were on, and then there's the dinghy out there floating with the sea lions on it, with the Labradors of the sea on it. The ocean doesn't really care about all that stuff. It shares its interdependence. It shares it with everyone. Or the lilac. John and I we love to go to Descanso when the lilacs are in bloom, and that fragrance is for everybody. For everybody. It doesn't say, "Oh no, only people that like lilacs." No, if you got hay fever, you got lilac fragrance too. That's the way this is, because this interdependence, it's a way of just being where everyone gets to take part in everything. But what happens for us, again, it's the inertia of the human experience. It's what Dr. Holmes called race consciousness or race thought. And we're not talking about black, brown, or Asian. We're not talking about the man-made races that we contrived here on the planet, because I just cannot wait. I want to wake up one morning and see the front page of the LA Times. Aliens landed at Hollywood Bowl in the middle of the John Denver concert. Or whoever. No, there's a story behind it. You know, my mother's boyfriend, I was telling him about Spotify, and I'm going, dude, you should make your own playlist on Spotify. Now here's this 80-year-old black guy, and I go like, who do you really like a lot? He goes, John Denver. Really? Okay, so I made him a John Denver Spotify list, of songs. So that's I know. Rocky Mountain High, California. California High now. It is. But, right there in that experience with Ellsworth, was my own inertia of the human experience, my own race thought getting in the way. I'm thinking, how can an 80-year-old black man like John Denver? Arthur Chang loves John Denver. He's almost an 80-year-old black man from Jamaica who's half Chinese. But still, my race thought got in the middle of that. He's supposed to like, the Delphonics or something like that, or Billy Eckstein or something like that. This is what we do with our thinking. We separate, and we miss the opportunity to see the beauty of the diversity of the human species. I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I got a Spotify on my phone. It's called Cowboy Cadillac Hits, because I like country music. Yeah, I like some good country music, But it happens all the time. There's this wonderful author, and she was telling a story about her childhood. She used to play, her brother was inherited some marbles, and she used to play marbles with her brother, right? And her dad, now her brother was kind of passive, and she's quite aggressive. And her brother was kind of like, well, whoever wins, wins, and if that's your favorite marble, you can have it. And she was like, that's my marble, I'm taking it, and she would just win all the time. And her father saw them playing marbles, and he told her, you can't play marbles. You're a little girl. Little girls don't play marbles. And then he actually spanked her to reinforce the message. And then her mother came upstairs afterwards and says, oh, baby, your father was just trying to tell you something you need to learn. The mother reinforced the message of patriarchy. We all collude in this message of patriarchy. It's about time that we move on from that, but we've done it. We've done it for years. The woman I'm talking about is Bell Hooks. Do you know Bell Hooks? Wonderful author. I really recommend that you read her. And she says, oh, did I miss one? I sure did, but that's all right. Don't worry about it. We cannot dismantle a system, because this is really so much more important than the wave ocean thing I'll talk about in a minute. We cannot dismantle a system as long as we engage in a collective denial about its impact on our lives. Oh my goodness, right? Look at that. We cannot dismantle a system as long as we engage in collective denial about its impact on our lives. She's talking about what's collective? It's the race consciousness. It's the human experience played over and over and over. It's false beliefs appearing real, right? We have an opportunity to move beyond that way. Go back to that Jewish kid walking around in sandals, who gets painted to look like Kenny Loggins when he probably looked like, I don't know, Cat Stevens. After he changed his name, right. But he says, in Luke 27, he says, love your enemy and do good to those who hate you. Whew, now that's a challenge. But it also means do good to those you dislike, too. Do good to those that you judge differently. And no matter what your opportunity, it's there for you, whether it's healthcare or immigration or patriarchy or equality. It's our chance, it's our initiation to become curious about something we've not experienced before and to move into a new way, to really live as residents of diverse city. Anthony DeMello says, when you do this, looking at everyone with new eyes, you become generous, loving, kind-hearted, where before you might have been hard or mean. It's a wonderful way to switch things up. And who doesn't want to be those things, generous and forgiving and kind-hearted? And all that doesn't mean that you have to sit around and invite people over to dinner. It just means you have to have a different look at things, a new curiosity about things. Lift yourself up in a whole new way. Because, we are all interconnected. That one quote that we missed, it is a powerful one. It's from Ernest Holmes. He says, and you don't need to go back for, you're so quick. I love that. The wave in the ocean will never be a wave by itself. It will always be the ocean as a wave. How often do you get to participate in your oceanness as you go waving through life? That's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about an opportunity to express spirit more fully and more purposely, to expand our horizons. You see, because we cannot wait on the collective will of the human species to move forward. It's our responsibility for each of us to take that movement ourselves. We each do our own individual work. And as we do our own individual work, then we lift the tide that does change the collective consciousness, that does move things forward. Remember, love as I have loved you. That's the thing. And as we experience those qualities of love, things begin to change. Remember that love is indiscriminate. It's indiscriminate. Think about the candle. It gives its light, and it gives its light to all. It doesn't discriminate as to who it's going to give its light to. And when we love, we live from a space of gratuitousness. We just freely give it up. And the lilac, it doesn't say, okay, that's 50 cents for that sniff. It doesn't do that. It doesn't charge. Love doesn't charge. And it's unselfish. The ocean is not worried that we're going to ruin it, even as we go about trying to ruin it. It's not worried about that. It loves so freely that it will let it do that. And then love gives a freedom to it. A freedom to make your own choices. And when you live these rules in diversity, things get better for everyone. And what I'm talking about is, go back to the ocean. You're laying out on the beach and you're just hot and you're dripping. The ocean will not run up on the beach and drag you into the water to cool you off. You must make that choice for yourself. We have to make the choices. Love is so unselfish and so free and so giving that it will let us destroy ourselves. But shall we do that? Not if we want to be good citizens in diverse city. We won't do that. We will do our own work. We will move to expand the horizons, as Dr. Holmes says. Every new horizon provides a fresh starting point for another horizon that is pushed even farther away. Well, that's a beautiful idea. See, that's progress infinitely unfolding. That's unfoldment everlasting. Every time you have a curiosity that takes you to a new horizon, the next horizon is just out there waiting for you to move into that one. And that's how we progress forward. And that's how diverse city becomes the entire planet. And so it is. Cool. So let's do some perceiving. And bearing witness, that's to give testimony. Bearing witness is to give testimony. So not only, bearing witness doesn't mean that you just notice something. It means you notice something and you tell about it, right? Here we go. I gratefully perceive it all, bearing witness to the interconnectedness and interdependence in this thing called life. Yes, so sweet. Beautiful. So it is. Ooh, prayer time. I love praying. Do my prayers go too long sometimes? Too bad. I'm not waiting for an answer. Thank you. Thank you, mein Verloofd. You can look it up if you want to. It's Verloofde. Verloofd. It's. Oh, no, actually, that's not what it means. No. It means fiance. But it does have an English sounding of verloofd, like you're my verloved. Yes, I hear you. But no, Dutch doesn't work that way. Spanish works that way. You can hear a word in Spanish and kind of figure it out sometimes, but no, Dutch is like. I mean, you should hear the happy birthday song. But anyway, it's we're going to get it's like prayer time. Help me. Are there prayers in here? Oh, there are. Good. This is the time where we all pray together. See, what we do is we use the collective consciousness of the divine in this moment to all hear the truth. So we're going to know about this person that's battling and moving forward to a new experience of expression. And we know about there's more health and wholeness happening right here for this person. And see, I'm not meaning their names because these are personal, right? And if you're too shy to put one in here, that's okay. We'll pray for you anyway. Okay? This is for someone to have right action and guidance. And this is for the love of the creature, love of the little one. All right. And if you know someone in your life that you desire to know the truth for, we'd like to hear that condition or that person's name right now, and then we will pray together. I'll be the mouthpiece, but we're all going to pray together for all the things that we know are holding out and waiting for a more fuller expression of life. For example, Patricia and wholeness and health. Ellsworth, new music choices. Yes, indeed. Spirit says, before they ask, I will answer. Before they speak, I will hear. So if you did not feel called to speak, don't worry. Spirit knows. And by us recognizing and uniting with the idea that Spirit knows, we put in action a law that manifests as a demonstration in our lives, a demonstration of good that shows up as wholeness, as right action, as divine healing, as perfect outcome, as guidance, as the next right indicated step. You see, there is something that happens when we set with intention and combine that with feeling and allow the law to take on its role, which is to do. It doesn't question, it simply answers the need. It hears the divine call, and it responds. And so by sharing in consciousness right now, and by recognizing that there is this law, and holding to it, and really believing in it, the way we believe in gravity, the way we believe in the sun coming up, the way we believe that we need to put sunscreen on in the sun, the way we believe in all these things that are a part of nature, law of Spirit is just like that. So when you feel a sense of doubt, go back to nature and see the things you believe in nature, and know that the nature of law is to act like nature. And perhaps from there you will find more faith. That's where I find my faith. That's where I find my belief. That's where I deepen my conviction. And I hold that for each and every person right now in this particular moment, just for a moment. And now I let it go to that law that hears, obeys, and answers. Thank you. I accept. I declare, I claim, and so it is. Okay. Share.